Oh, hello, Internet. Hello. You caught me in a selfie. Look at that. I am here at the Maxon booth with my very own, my very own Daniel Hashimoto. For those of you who don't know, the action movie dad. He is inspired people all around the world showing his crazy composites of some of the most important things. Also, one of the hosts of VFX and Chill. So, I could tell you more and I can just like use words, but I think best would be using visual communication. So please, let's give a big round of applause for Daniel Hashimoto.
Thanks so much, man. Awesome. Thank you, and thank you, Maxon, for all the crazy organization. It's been amazing. So, hi, I've been asked to come and talk a little bit about Trapcode Particular and some of its new features. And in traditional me fashion, I've made it all about myself. So, so don't worry, it's not going to get too techy. But I do talk a lot about myself. And then I will go over some Trapcode features. And then, we'll try to close, bring it all together, maybe have a little discussion, fun stuff like that. So, let's get started. This is called You've Changed, with featuring Trapcode Particular. And I'm Daniel Hashimoto, which is where Hashi comes from. And so, please call me Hashi if you come up to meet me later. Also known as Action Movie Dad sometimes. And also, my parents still call me Danny, which is really weird to anyone who knows me. I had wanted to be a filmmaker for a very long time. And so I went to film school and was super hip and really cool there. And after film school, I decided to, I ended up focusing a lot on visual effects, filmmaking, and exciting projects that had, everything is a little zoomed in here. Working on stuff shot on film, but doing some cool sleight of hand visual effects with a digital intermediary, and that was a lot of fun. My college career transitioned into me working at DreamWorks Animation, where I was able to put some of the concepts I had learned to use, but I was diving headfirst into an animation pipeline instead of a visual effects live action pipeline, which was sort of my bag at the time. So here's one of the most challenging shots we did. This is a not only that's cool. Not only After Effects animation and compositing, but this is also all in stereoscopic. So that was a fun challenge. We got to build our stereoscopic pipeline as we were putting this together. Fun. And then after that, while I was at work, during my spare time at night, I had a child. And that's James standing there on the couch. This is he and his friend being mesmerized and holding absolutely still, watching some episode of TV. And just for fun, I missed the live action visual effects that I used to do. And so I started to mix them in with my daily home videos. And I was at first just posting these on Facebook at the time, just for friends and family who wanted to see how things were going at home. But my parents were not on Facebook, and so I threw them onto YouTube, where they had their own little channel. And with to no effort of my own, the channel went viral enough that ended up keeping me occupied for many years, which was a lot of fun. So if you ever have the chance to work with your children, making something cool happen, do that. Just a few more exciting clips. You get it. There's no hose in that one. A lot of people don't see the effect. All right, so what was really funny about this, the viral YouTube-ish channel, is that it gave me the opportunity to do a handful of commercial directing spots. We did, I think, 40 spots for Toys R Us, and I still tried to kind of keep touch with my visual effects route. Like this was a fun like in between because I'd just done animated features and then I got to come out and do this exciting shot, which is fun. This thing had 68 versions. So lots of fun. All the while, because I use a lot of Trapcode particular in my things, as evidenced by, like this frame, I'd been in touch with Red Giant a bunch and ultimately ended up doing some like part-timey, freelancey things and tutorials for them, and then eventually was wooed over to work full-time at Red Giant. So the pipeline for that is like make films as kid, film school, and an animation studio, viral YouTube-y stuff, then teaching other people how to do the viral YouTube-y stuff. So from here, pardon me while I try to bring up a file I forgot to preload. Where did I put it? We don't need it. Maybe it's in here. I had to collect my files, and so now I've got to double-click everything. Here we go. All right, just because, more of me. Here's a reel of a handful of things that I taught for Red Giant tutorials, and mixed in with some other stuff. It's a reel, but the majority of these shots that aren't clearly from a motion picture are from Red Giant tutorials, a series I did called Cheap Tricks. Oh, we're missing the center channel. Excellent. So that's some fun, exciting kind of stuff that I like to do. And so yeah, lots and lots of change in my career, and I feel like that's a very universal thing for most people in this industry. Like there's not a specifically clear path forward for anybody. And so if you ever feel like you're not on a specifically clear path, I think you'd find yourself in very good company. The very last thing I will share with you before I get to actually telling you about the exciting history of changes in Trapcode is a little promo of a show that I host I host every Friday at 10 with Seth Worley, if you're familiar with his work. We have a little show called VFX and Chill, where we try to use our 2-hour block to wholly put together a Hollywood-level visual effect using whatever skill set we can. So here is a small teaser of what you can expect from a typical episode. It's a very dignified learning experience, So if you've ever got free time on Friday, or if you want to catch any of our reruns, they're all available on the Red Giant channel still. We're still repping Red Giant whenever we can. So it may feel really silly, but when I look at where I've ended up at Red Giant, which became Maxon, and all of that, I do have one weird constant through a lot of my work, and it is actually the Trapcode particular plugin. And so I feel like it easily got me a handful of my jobs just by knowing that plugin well and being able to do things with it. And so I thought that we would talk about the changes in Trapcode over time. I mean, it's I hope are most of you familiar with Trapcode particular or use it in a workflow of sorts? Lovely. So here's a fun blast from the past. If you remember when Trapcode first came out, it was mind-blowing to me that it was a great way to bridge the 2.5D world that After Effects offered with these 3D particles, which in my mind were outstanding. It was really cool to see things in multiple dimensions and popping out and doing exciting things like this. And so then, let's see, what do we got here? And remember these? I love these guys. They're good friends. And also, I would hope that anyone who played around with the original particular made this as a project file right away, right? So one of the ways that this fed into my career path was that we were trying to do some visualizations for a movie called that eventually ended up being called Rise of the Guardians at DreamWorks Animation. And some of this doesn't have to do with particular, but it has to do with my obsessiveness, and so I'm just sharing it anyway. We wanted to do some previs of this really crazy mid-air action sequence but in storyboard land before we had built any CG assets. And so, so here's me doing everything I can to make After Effects a 3D, a more 3D experience without having to go to another package. And what was really great about Particular is I could use it for things like this, like atmospherics and building, and those are just motion blurred, simple particles, and that's what it could offer at the time. But it was this incredible Z layer of depth that you could add to things, and for that reason, I really, really fell in love with it. So there's some fun example of that. And when I moved on to Kung Fu Panda, actually doing shot work on that, we started using Particular for all of these fire and spark elements. And so this fire was designed by Ramon Zibach and Tang Heng from DreamWorks, really cool designers, and they did some really cool stuff to make these happen. But they had sort of drawn them in Photoshop, just by basically drawing some fire shapes and then erasing some scattered shapes through them, and they really liked the look of that. And so I took their art and I thought, that looks a little bit like, let's see, if I had my old Particular, I would do a sphere emitter. It's not too big. Yeah, and old Trapcode, you just have this little pull down over here to do everything. No feather on the spheres, some size randomness on the things there. Not much velocity, I don't think. We'll turn that down to 10. And then let's drag this, whoops. Oh, what did I do? Did I? Undo, come back. There you are. Sorry, my keyboard shortcuts are not doing what I expect them to do. All right, here we go. So, can I move the pin now? No. Oh, did it not come? I'm an expert on this, I swear. There he is. All right, so in the old Particular, you did have a wind X and Y, which was easy. So I would always go over, they're now located in this thing called environment. And you could blow the particles kind of over the course of their life in one direction, like that. And we'll turn up their life a little bit. And turn up their size a bit. All right. Sorry, everything is snapping a little slower than I expected it to. So yeah, let's blow this with even more wind in the X direction and then some in the Y direction so we get a nice like 45-degree angle going on. And then once we had a shape sort of like this, we would sort of play with the size and number of particles being emitted until we got a kind of solid chunk of spheres like this. Yeah, there we go. So now we've got solid white going through them. And this edge that was created here worked really well as a cool kind of stylized fire element. So what happened with this was we could take elements like this, and for the short version of them, we would have a couple of copies of them. Oops, I should make that a guide layer. There we go. And now you can see that if you just mush two of them together, kind of like that, the middle is a really nice fire shape. And so that was my gateway into getting After Effects and Trapcode into Kung Fu Panda. And after that, we got to use it for snow and atmospherics and all of the TV shows and things like that. And because of Particular, we got to move to an After Effects pipeline for the 2D animated shorts, which was really fun. So getting to work in After Effects was nice because I'm very comfortable in After Effects. So this is a fun example of something you can do with old Particular, the original out of the box. And then there started to be some changes to Particular. And overall, I want to talk about change today because when a plugin or something changes, it can be it's scary. Like seeing like an update available button or a new version of a plugin is coming out can be super exciting, and it can also be really nerve-wracking. And so at this point, the Particular 2.5 came out in 2015, and they had this new designer window. I can't remember. I think it was called the Effects Builder. Here we go. And it was a pop-out interface for you to work with the particle creator that was a little bit more visual and a little bit faster because you could get a nice video preview of what you were about to create that was actually interactive. And I was very stubborn at the time, and I kind of refused to use the effects builder for many versions of After Effects because I really liked being able to open up all the things and feel like a mad scientist. And so I think it wasn't until they introduced the concept of multiple systems that I realized, okay, that's kind of cool that I can add multiple systems to it. It's really neat, but when can I have them interact with the same space as form? And they were like, right around the corner in 2015. But the new features did keep on coming out in Teams, or not Teams, systems, like I said, became available in 2017 with Particular 3.0. And Nate can probably fact check me on these. Some of these are probably not accurate, but you could start to add multiple systems of Particular all interacting within the same 3D space, which is really advantageous for doing shots like this. This shot, I think, had 8 instances of Particular for the wide, and 8 systems of Particular in the wide. And in this one, each character did have their own full set of Particular, and then the background and environment were using multiple system sorter to move these hand sprites around. So Particular allowing you to mix multiple systems at once ended up being really advantageous because I was trying to cheat things like that before, and so I did eventually accept the change that they were trying to make more happen within it. Several more cool things came out. I don't remember the order of this, but I do remember that when motion paths were introduced to Trapcode, it was really wonderful for animators because that's the way that they would do their traditional 2D effects or sprites or splashes or bubbles, something flying around. They really want a clean vector that you can see and things are moving along. And the standard particle system didn't really do that. You could try warping the render or something like that. But then Particular started offering this, which is where you, I think it was demonstrated earlier maybe, but you animate a light through space to do stuff, and you can tell all these particles to follow it. One of the drawbacks of the way it was set up when I was working on Mary Poppins was that to get the nice spread out of the particles like this, you could keyframe the emitter to be small and then big and then small again to sort of try to control how big everything was. But at that point, they were somewhat locked to the path that they were on, and there was a little bit of rigidity in the way you'd see them move. And so you'd try to really set up your banking as carefully and gently as you could so you didn't get abrupt movements and things like that from them, because the particles weren't really aware of each other. They were just sort of doing their thing. And it did end up looking very pretty. But now After Effects offers a flocking system, which is absurd. And I'm catching you up with this as if we haven't been here for the last 2 years. And Trapcode is like an old friend to everybody who, it's good to keep in touch with, because there are a lot of things that I would have missed, I think, about Particular. Let me pull up an example of, this is an example of several things. This is flocking and predator-prey behavior, which is a really cool feature of Particular. So in this case, we're utilizing multiple things that have evolved along with Particular. So it's clearly two systems, primary systems, the blue ones who are the prey, the red ones that are the predator. And I remember that at one point I heard that they were getting rid of aux particles, and I was very upset for a little bit because I use them for a lot of things. And then I found out that I wasn't losing aux particles, I was getting 11 other systems, basically. And which one could function as an aux particle, just like it did here. So again, each time a change was proposed to Particular that felt like it could take away something that I used in the past, it did end up offering more than I thought it would, and then some, which is really fun. Also integrated over time was a Z-depth buffer. I know that interactions for that Mary Poppins thing would have been really nice to actually have a Z-depth. They had a layer map where you could use a 3D card of your 2D footage with the same alpha, and you can still use that pipeline to try to sandwich something in the middle of a group of particles, but there's now a really great depth buffer, so you could, for example, render a 3D object in Mir, have a hidden export of its depth mat also rendering in Mir, and tell Particular, which all by itself could be interacting with that Z-depth buffer, which is really nice. And so one of the last things that I've been really excited about is, first of all, the flocking and predator-prey behavior are things that I think could be really amazing for motion designers, because you can set up things that feel... I love watching simulations. I don't know if everyone else loves watching simulations as much as I do, but they're just so mesmerizing and entertaining. I'm going to pop up in the designer window for just a second because it's so fun to watch them. I'm going to show you that just like all Red Giant stuff, there are a billion completely customizable presets, which I really like, especially if you're new and are trying to learn things. So for example, to show off what I'm going to now, there's flocking systems. So for example, you could see a demonstration of, whoops. I know, there we go. So these particles move around, and they have some draw to touch the other particles. And when they do, the the good particles are getting killed by the virus or whatever, and triggered to disappear within a specific radius, which is really cool. I don't know why this is playing back so slowly. You could do something as complicated as let me see here. Here is a multi-system preset that is pretty exciting. Oh, I feel like it's not loading well here. Let's see how this one plays. That one's playing a little more nice. This is another feature that I hadn't gotten to mentioning, which was introduced about 2 years ago, called fluid dynamics, which was something that most people were trying to simulate with particular for ages. And we finally got a proper fluid sim category, which is really cool and fun to see. So all of these combined make particular very, very different from the particular that I grew up with. But at the same time, I do really like being able to interact with it this way. Oh, I'm sorry, there is one last thing in particular that I wanted to show, which is this. I'm going to show you the final version. We are now able to take, we were able to mush Trapcode form and Trapcode particular together into the same plugin. So from now on, particular would solve anything that you would use form for. You can still import standalone form, but if you import a form system into particular, you can have your particular particles interact directly with a form object, and that is a really cool thing that we've been wanting to do for a long time, and it's very nice to see them all together. And one of the drawbacks of particular was it didn't use displacement or layer maps the same way that form could. And form was great for being able to map, your image to a bunch of colors of particles and things like that. And particular had a layer emitter, which was similar, where you could draw your RGB from a layer, but I always found that the time cost was too great. And so one thing that I found out, much to my delight this week, just playing around with it, was that if you were utilizing a depth mat, which you could be live exporting from Mir, or you could pre-render it, or whatever, just this depth information can be fed over to particular now. So instead of displacing static, immortal particles, it's actually displacing all of the particles within the world that are getting affected by the physics engine. And you can get these really exciting results. So I was very encouraged by how fast this response was, as opposed to an object sequence emitter or something like that. So I think that is a good summary of a lot of the features from particular that I really like. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about something that I think could apply to all of us, which is just change. So Trapcode changed a lot, and in typical VFXer fashion, I'm a little reticent and slow to adopt stuff because I'm excited for the latest thing, and I really don't want it to break my old thing. And I mean, I feel like it's a very universal feeling. And so, I mean, one of the fears of being oh, here we go. Let me pull this up again. This might be a little loud. You can turn this down in the back if you want. So I was going to say that, one of the fears of being an expert in any field is that field will change, and you think you'll become irrelevant, and you'll feel like you're supposed to constantly be climbing this hill, but you're worried it might become a slope that you're going to get dragged down, and be I certainly fear this. But the problem with all of that thinking is that the metaphor of climbing a hill to get somewhere is stupid, because people can move in all dimensions, and you should move in the direction that makes you feel excited and curious to experience things. And so, because change is everywhere, and everything that we use will change. And I'll be honest, like Maxon grew really, really fast after we got it, like sucked into the Maxon portal. And so, to me, it was like there was a lot of growing pains and things like that go with rapid expansion and trying to mush a bunch of people together in the same spot. But like really, it could be an opportunity for like you could be upset at the change, or you could also embrace it as an opportunity for personal growth. So so I feel optimistic about this at this point because I feel like we're finding a really cool step between all of these crazy things that we're doing together. And like if you're interested in visual effects earlier, you would have like slightly before when I was growing up, you might have like Cinefex or the DV Rebels guide or something like that to try to like figure out how you break into any kind of a visual effects style industry. And I don't even know what you would do before that if you wanted to. You could like move to Van Nuys and like drive around and ask people until you found a visual effects artist perhaps. But what I like about Maxon is that it comes with so many new resources, and people like Stu Maschwitz, like author of the DV Rebels Guide, is a chief creative officer, like who has resources to make people do and put together amazing things. And what's fun about Stu is that I think that he's incapable of not learning as much as he can about something and then wanting to teach and talk about that thing. And so now that we have a company kind of at our disposal to do that, I think it can be very exciting because we have a Maxon training team and we have a lot of really, really capable people who know how to use all of the software that we make. And so we're all clashed together as a new family, and it's a lot of change for us as well, but we're finding a good stride within it. And so we absolutely want to invite everybody to attend our daily live events. We have events every day of the week, and we have and you can catch up on all of them online. And if you need like boutique like training videos, our training team is pumping out tons of stuff all the time. And coming to visit one of our live shows, I think is one of the best ways you can engage with us as a company because honestly, like we have plenty of our own feedback about how things work or how things go. And like the more you guys can join that conversation in the live streams or talking with people, like it's just us. It's like the people who are here. So definitely please engage with us in those places because it can be really wonderful. We have, they're not on this thing. We have, what have we got? We got ZBrush, Redshift, Red Giant, Forger, and ZBrush. I probably said ZBrush twice. All mushed into one family. So it feels really, really overwhelming. But remember, like you're not trying to learn it all. You can pick any path, and we have a really, really broad path for you guys to explore. So just wanted to say thank you very much. And that's I think what I got, man.
All right.
It's up.
I was going to ask for a big round of applause, but they already gave it to you. So darn it.
I'll take it.
Darn it. So another round. No, you don't have to clap again. So what we do have, once again, is question time. So we do have time for questions. And the nice thing is, live audience gets first priority. Otherwise, we kick it to our family on the interwebs. Come on, who got questions?
Lovely.
See, this is the problem with being so thorough. Like, next time I'm tell you, like, leave out half of your presentation. Just like me.
I'll just like play the reel and then sit down.
Yeah,
just next time.
No, make it confusing. Like, so I'm gonna go ahead and start this and like don't explain anything. And then
that's a good call.
That's how we get them more engaged. All right, so we don't have any questions here, but we do have one from the audience at home, and that is: can you set the attributes to particles based on properties like velocity, like color by velocity?
Yes, you can. Let me see if I
Internet.
can do. Let me find a good, just empty sample here.
So I guess this would be a great effect for like smoke and fire for trails or things like that.
Mm-hmm. And Nate, I might need backup on this because Is it lightness? Like, can you get velocity from lightness? Or what am I thinking of? I might have answered that incorrectly. Oh, that's what I'm thinking of. I'm sorry. So we used to not have a velocity over life, which is great. So you can have particles that explode quickly and then slow down. or you can have ones that do the opposite. They're like slow and then they get anxious.
Okay.
So currently you can draw a curve for the velocity of a particle over its life, but I'm sorry, yeah, you cannot use the layer map to determine the velocity.
Not yet. Feature request. So,
Feature request.
But it's a known feature request because Nate knew that. So
That's right. So that
not
means
a
it's like
mystery.
it's on his desk, which is wonderful.
Yeah,
And
it's where you want it to be.
and those feature requests again come from people. I mean, we're the other people over here, and we want to make it good. So let us know.
Yeah. The thing is, a lot of us are also artists, so we probably like, ooh, that's a good idea, but it's just implementation is always like, oh, it's a good idea. It's going to take a lot of work, or whatever it's going to take. So awesome. For more questions for Hashi, he will be in the back of the booth. He's also with us tomorrow, but please grab him then. We will have up next our very next presenter, so stay tuned. I think we have another member of the internal team, but I'll double check on that. Internet, you know, but for those of you who don't, go to the 3dmotionshow.com, check us out, and register. Just go hit sign up. It's right under the little player, and you'll be entered to win. We have thousands and thousands of dollars from partners and prizes, so definitely check that out, and we will see you here in the next 5 minutes. So stay tuned, and we'll see you back after this.
Amazing. Thanks, Matthias.
Thank you, brother.